Hey everyone, it's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. How are you doing? Good? Fantastic? Awesome? Cool. Again, totally to the side rails of Honey Boo Boo. I swear I'm going to get to this story, I promise. But this is more important because we have been waiting on this decision for months, since March, in fact, or May, April, May, March. May, sorry. Since the court removed Noah McAdams, a 4-year-old boy in Florida, from his parents, a Florida court has ruled against the parents. So here's what's going on. If you're new to the story, in May, Noah McAdams was removed from custody of his parents because his parents fled the state after a court ordered that he receive chemotherapy for a very treatable form of acute lymphoblastic leukemia. Instead, the couple fled to Kentucky with their son and vowed to treat their son's cancer with apricot seeds, miracle mineral solution, herbs, THC, hyperbaric oxygen, an alkaline diet, bunch of woo woo. Okay, and while they were on the run, mommy Taylor, who thinks she's in the medical world, she actually removed a PICC line from this little boy's arm, which put him in a substantial risk for infection or life-threatening injuries. And they have been fighting with the state of Florida since then to regain custody of their child, Noah. Since his return to Florida, he has been in the custody of his maternal grandmother, Amanda Jordan. He has maintained and continued to be on chemotherapy and is currently in remission. However, the form of cancer that he has requires about 2 to 3 years of maintenance and ongoing chemotherapy to ensure that all of the cancer cells that are in the blood stay out of the blood, because it is a blood marrow and it's made in your blood marrow and it can recycle very quickly. So in order to keep the cancer in remission, they stay on chemo for quite some time. With this protocol, children are having a 90 to 95% success rate. So even though it's an arduous treatment process, children do survive. So in court today, Judge Thomas Palermo, said that Noah McAdams is at substantial risk of imminent death by his parents. He said that the testimony given by a doctor that allowed for the understanding of cancer that showed that chemotherapy needed for him had a 90 to 95% success rate with a protocol that is a half a century old. So it's a tried and true, like it's been used for more than 50 years and it works. So he said that the part of the parents' desires to use natural remedies as the cure, there are absolutely no evidence presented at the dependency trial that any alternative therapy offered any actual effective treatment for his cancer. And they also said the court is convinced that if given an opportunity, the parents would flee again with Noah McAdams and refuse to provide him with the necessary medical treatments. Now, a couple reporters were live streaming during the court appointment or during the court hearing, and so Diva Kumar, who has been covering the story for the Tampa Bay Tribune, she actually was live streaming and said, without law enforcement intervention, Noah McAdams, who was put into state custody in May after his parents took him to Kentucky, would not be receiving adequate medical treatment, Palermo said. The court seemed the only scientifically reliable treatment was chemotherapy. Palermo said McAdams' father's records with domestic violence were troubling. The court is uncertain whether his issue is with women or with control, but that places Noah in imminent risk of harm. The court is convinced that if given the opportunity, the parents would flee again. and this is why they believed that they would flee. This is the steps that they took while they were on the run. They abandoned their car in a Target parking lot, dumped their cell phones, pulled a pick line, sent a letter of intent to leave effectively forever, is all evidence beyond reasonable doubt that they were trying to flee, he said, and their testimony against could not be deemed credible. So they testified in court that they weren't trying to flee, yet the court said that there's mounting evidence that showed that they were. And it says the parents intended to discontinue chemotherapy despite knowing the ramifications of doing so and having no credible alternative, he said, although they contended otherwise. He said the state of Florida met its burden of proof and found the clear and convincing evidence for neglect, and the court finds that it's in Noah McAdams' interest to remain in the care of his maternal grandparents. The state has the option to reunify him with either or both parents with a guardian ad litem, and after undergoing mental health evaluations and tools for successful reunification. They have 30 days to appeal. Now, another reporter for WFTS was also live tweeting, and she said, Taylor and Joshua refused chemotherapy for their son because he wanted to seek alternative treatment following a leukemia diagnosis. The judge is describing a situation where Taylor pulled a PICC line out of the arm, which the judge says is extremely dangerous. He says under oath, Taylor admitted and she didn't know how to do it, but watched a YouTube video. Judge read aloud a letter sent to the grandmother from Jacksonville while the sheriff was searching for them, and she says that they were seeking alternative treatment out of states. Apparently, Taylor knew deputies were searching for them, but ignored it and went to dinner with Noah and Joshua. When they got back, law enforcement took the boy into custody. The judge says the state did successfully prove Joshua McAdams is an untimely threat to him because he has an anger issue. The judge says details of the 2016 battery case as disturbing. The judge believes if given the opportunity, the parents would run again, and they say the parents aren't reliable. The judge says that Taylor's letter is a telling sign of the true intent. The judge says he cannot believe the parents were continuing to give Noah oral medications, including antibiotics. He says that Taylor's statement during trial lacked credibility. The judge would like both parents to get mental health evaluations, and Noah McAdams must not be removed from the area with judge approval. Noah will remain in the custody of his grandparents. The state of Florida will have the option to give them custody back in the future. He would like them both to go through mental health evaluations. So there we go. And she was visibly upset with tears running down her face, and she did not want cameras on her after she left the courtroom. This was a mother that was obsessed with her court, with the cameras. This was the family that brought cameras into a typically closed hearing to protect the privacy of their child. Instead, they invited the media in, and now the judge has spoken, and the child will not leave. What I find a couple things sort of come to mind here. During this entire ordeal, Taylor has been telling two different stories on Facebook, which her Facebook profile has been now since put into jail. So she can't even upload on Facebook anymore. On Facebook, she's been saying that she's not a neglectful parent, that she's really against chemotherapy, that they're not going to do this, they're not going to do that. She talked on Facebook about giving her son cannabis without any approval from doctors. In fact, a source connected to the family told me about this and said that their visitation became restricted after they found out that Noah tested positive for CBD without approval from an oncologist. So she was still giving this child medications, defying a court order while they had no custody of him. That's why the judge referenced that he could not believe that despite the court's order, she was still giving him medication, making it a threat to his safety and his overall well-being. And because without chemotherapy he would die, the judge said that It was really like the parents were picking between life and death, and the parents were literally picking death by failing to treat their son. So this has been a really important case for me to cover for a few reasons. Taylor is a charlatan who has been using her platform on Facebook to lure women to have births without any assistance. She tells women not to have any testing, not to have ultrasounds. She attends births as though she is a skilled labor midwife and has no experience. She has herself, though, had 2 hospital births with interventions. But she tells women you don't need any of that stuff, but she herself has used it. Do you see the hypocrisy there? While all of this was going on and she is so adamant against medication for her son, Taylor gets kidney stones and goes to the hospital for pain medication. But she won't give her son life-saving medication for his leukemia. Joshua, for his part, his sources tell me that he has been diagnosed with schizophrenia and he does not treat it. And Taylor likely has some sort of mental illness going on, because I can't imagine if you're with someone that is like that, like Joshua, you can't be feeling all that good about yourself. Sources connected to the family have told me that this relationship is extremely volatile and it has a lot of issues, and Joshua is very controlling. Her mother testified in court that her grandmother testified in court that they were very lackadaisical as parents, they didn't even want to take him to the hospital. I mean, her grandmother had to basically say, if you don't take him to the hospital, I'm going to call an ambulance and I'm going to report you. At the hospital, there was whispers of neglect and the family talking with hospital staff that the family had neglected the child, which is ultimately what prompted CPS involvement in this case. So it's, on the one hand, we want to respect a parent's right to choose how they treat a child. But on the other hand, a child is not our property. A child has constitutional rights to receive treatment for a life-threatening illness. In the same breath that Taylor cannot deny her son leukemia treatment, I, as my son's mother, cannot deny my son his medications to control his adrenal insufficiency. I cannot deny him surgery that would fix a shunt malfunction. I cannot deny that his medication for his thyroid, for his growth hormone. I am under an obligation as his guardian to make sure that my son has all the medication that he needs to live a long life. As much as I hate giving him medication because I wish he wasn't sick, it's not my choice, because you know what? It's a doctor's order and this is the standard protocol. And as parents, I think sometimes there's that fight of, well, I want to do this because I know what's best for my child. Unfortunately, sometimes we don't know what's best for our child, and I can attest to that. I have never known what's best for my child. My child has needed so much help from doctors, and as hard as it is to get devastating diagnoses and news from doctors, we also need to trust that they will keep our children safe. All doctors take a oath, the Hippocratic Oath, of doing no harm to patients. And while there are some doctors that are bad apples in the bunch, most doctors are selfless in their compassion and love for their patients. Many of these doctors sacrifice their family lives and their children's activities in order to save and help their patients. I think more than anything, a lot of the media focus has been on a parent's right to choose, but I think ultimately the real argument here should be about a parent's ability to see that a child is a completely autonomous person outside of them, that our children have rights, that our children are their own people, that our children are protected from our bad choices. The same way the courts protect children from neglect and from abuse, both physical and sexual, from parents, They are also under requirements of the law to ensure that a parent does not medically neglect their child. In the case of Noah, I believe what the judge did was right. And I also feel like it would be a really long road for these parents to ever get custody back of Noah, because at their very core, this family was more willing to put their shoddy beliefs in alternative health and their sovereign citizen status of not believing that people have the right, like, their belief that everyone is out to get them and that they know better than everyone else. They put that belief system over their child. Imagine that. Imagine being so indoctrinated into a belief system that holding on to that belief system is more important than you having custody of your child. All they would have had to do was agree to do what the court asked, comply with the orders, as well as make sure that their child got what he needed. But instead, it was their cult-like belief in this alternative health and distrust of science and the medical community that they ultimately chose over their son. Think of how ridiculous that is. And this is why I speak out about this kind of stuff. Because these types of people are no better than people that are in cults that separate themselves or excommunicate themselves from their families because they hold their beliefs over the value of their child. Noah is in a much better place with his grandmother. Noah is thriving in the custody of his maternal grandmother. And for the record, Noah's grandmother is not supportive and has not been supportive of him not receiving medical care and has been complying with the court that he receive everything. In fact, Taylor and Joshua's beliefs contradict all of the beliefs of their families. Both families strongly believe in medication, strongly believe in science and in doctors, and Taylor and Joshua's beliefs are like the fringe, and they're harmful. There is let me just find this so you can see, but this is Noah with his grandma and grandpa. That doesn't look like a kid that's having a hard time, does it? He literally looks like he is so happy. And the irony in all of this, his grandfather, or his step-grandfather, Amanda's husband, he's a deputy for Hillsborough Sheriff's Department, the same department that searched for his grandson while his stepdaughter fled. His department and him were fighting for Noah, and his parents were running to his certain death. I'm ecstatic for Noah. It's never ideal for a family to be separated, but at the same time, not all people are equipped to being parents, and as of right now, neither Joshua nor Taylor should be parents to Noah. I'd love to hear your thoughts and have a discussion with you. You know what? Since this has been an ongoing chat, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hang out in the chat afterwards and I'll talk with you guys. I'll answer questions. So stay online if you want to keep talking. But for the rest of you, thank you so much for watching, and let me know if you are happy for Noah, what your thoughts are about all of this. Bye.